Right guys, here we are. Time to chop this guy up. So I'm not going to go too much into an intro or anything. It's part 2 of the 4-piece build. Literally just going to get on the bandsaw now, cut this guy up, and then look at the hardware, decide what I'm going to do. Alright, so I'm going to get this bit of plastic so I can slide it without scratching. And try and figure out how to line this up so it's straight. I think I'm just going to have to go for it, eh? Alright, if I get down low and eyeball it, it's pretty good. Don't worry about that nail, it only goes in about 3mm. Alright, as her, she's all cut up. I'm going to have to come through and sand off all these corners so they're not a sharp edge. Epoxy won't stick to that later when I clear coat it. Alright guys, got 2 options here for the joint. If that focuses, I'm going to need to go super tight 1.2mm double loops, which will put the gap at about that distance apart, maybe a little bit bigger, which is a big distance. Or I can order a bunch more of these. I think they're a 23mm screw eye. Actually, to be honest with you, either way is not really going to matter as to how I make the mold. Yeah, it will, because I need to cut the recesses out for them into this section. Do I have to cut them? I could do something a little bit out of the ordinary, right? What if I just super glued on a bit of polycarbonate so the polycarbonate sticks out? There you go. So 3mm thick piece of polycarbonate. So it's obviously way wider than what the freaking thing is, but side on view will do what we need to. So what if I was to super glue that on there, make the mold, and then I make a few of these that actually make recesses into the lure. I reckon as long as I line that up straight, cut these into, I don't know, a little bit wider than what that is. Just cut them like that wide. Then when I actually make the mold, I'll stick these into the mold that go into the actual cavity. Deep enough for that. Yeah, I might do that. I'll have to order a whole heap of these though. That will also give it a much neater, tighter look. So the joins will only be like that big. Actually, the joins will be variable. So I'm going to screw the screw eye in and out to make it as big as I want. Yeah, I'm going to go that way. For now though, to get the mold. Actually no, I don't even need those to make the mold. All I need to do is put a pilot pin where the pilot hole is going to be. Just want to cast the resin, it's got a pilot hole pre-drilled. Now I just knock it out, screw the screw eye in, we're pretty much done. I'm going to do that, put all the hardware in afterwards, because then it's going to make it a shit ton easier to make the mold. I cut up a bunch of them, they're all 8mm. Wide enough for that. Plus a little bit of spare. Now I'm literally going to figure out how far into the mold I need them. Enough that's going to leave enough strength for the pin. I'll put a 1.6mm stainless pin in it. First let's establish some center lines. Looks pretty close to being straight to me. Alright, so I just went a bit quiet trying to figure out how I was going to do this. So what I've come up with is that's pretty much as close as I can get for these things to go in without them sticking through the edge of this, because that piece is small. Alright, bottom, and then I'm going to eyeball line it up like that. Make sure the 2 sections are right, make sure the pins are on the black line. And that section there, I'm going to cut small bits of 1.2 and ram them into it. That was my dog. Sound like a rooster. Alright guys, that's where we left off last night. I was just getting these locator pins in. They're literally just going to be placeholders for where I put the screw eyes once they arrive. I ordered 100 last night. So I'm going to glue these into this section. And then where they meet on the opposite side, I'm going to push that into that so I get a location of where I'm going to glue that polycarbonate onto. The only thing I'm making sure of is where I put them, I've got enough meat in this section to put the slot. So I'm going to prep all three of these up. Glue these pins in. Then yeah, we'll start gluing on the little polycarbonate bits. I'm going to have to shorten them up a lot. So when I do these pieces, I'm going to have maybe 10 millimeters sticking out. Glue it on, hopefully as square as possible. And then once I put that into the actual mold, I'm going to have a longer piece deep enough to go into the body to create the recess for the pin. So to glue these in, I don't have a drill bit 1.2, so I'm drilling them at 1.5. Pack the hole with baking soda. We'll make a clean hole, but it'll also lock that in there pretty much instantly. Alrighty. So I've got all these small pieces cut, 8 millimeters wide, 12 millimeters long. So my plan is hold it there, glue it. Sounds easy, right? Not gonna be. I was a guessing man, 100% chance of gluing fingers. I don't think I'm going to film all this, it's taken ages. I'll get back to you when she's all done. Alright guys, here we are. It's got all the placeholders in, screw eyes for the recess, screw eye recess, screw eye recess. Got the through pins in. Now we need to figure out the orientation for the mold. So I'm not going to put the hook eyes in until after. Then I can move them around. I'm just going to use long screw eyes. This one here is going to be an issue, but we'll figure that out later. Because yeah, if I mount the toe point there and it turns out it needs to be there, tough titties. Same with the hook hanger down here, it might be in the way of where I need to put lead, so all that's going to be after the mold, after it's casted. We got a little unconventional, and I'm going to put it upside down in the mold, so we're filling from the belly, so the back hasn't got any issues, any things to clean up. Ducked out and bought some laminated particle board, just because the laminate is going to give a nice finish on the mold. Just need to figure out what sort of orientation I'm going to put it in. I think I might fill them that way. Put the fill port there. Face them all downhill. So then where I'm filling from will be the highest point. Something like that, I reckon. Fill port will act as the vent. Shouldn't be too many recesses that end up with bubbles. The eye will be the only one that's going to be a pain, but no avoiding that, unfortunately. Alright guys, so I got the mold box made, 2-part. Because I went so deep with this material, I got 2 infill pieces. Just take up some space so I don't have to use so much clay. I don't like how tight that is. I'm just going to go and shave that off a bit. So 2 infills, little bit deeper than half of the bait. So that's the clay I use, Claymate, oil-based. It was pretty cold here last night, so it's probably going to be a pain in the ass to use. Might actually sit the other part in the sun for a minute. So first up, I'm just going to go around, make a little, call it a log, just around that infill piece. Just keep that in place. This is really just to make sure if I do spring a leak, it doesn't leak me silicone out everywhere. I've never had it happen before, so. And after that, I'll just start putting in small pieces. It's easier to rip out a whole heap of small pieces than it is to rip one big piece out, so remember that. I'm going to do that same trick too with the body and put some sticky tape on it. I don't want to be digging clay out of those scales. Now that I've got that in there, I come through and level her off. So that's all the excess. And we'll come back through and we'll just smooth all that out. 100% not necessary, I just like doing it. I like a neater looking mould. Alright guys, look at that. Smooth as a baby's butt. Now's the time to get our orientation sorted. So that's the bottom of that one. I think we said we're going that way, didn't we? That's us. We're gonna have fill ports down here. Alright. It's gonna be a lot of excavating in this one. So this just so I don't end up with that clay all through the scales. So the first step I normally take is this little feeler gauge set. It was a, you know, your Christmas crackers, your bonbons, come out of one of them. So it's probably inaccurate as all heck, so I don't mind using it for this. So I just use the thinnest one. Just as a blade, come around, trace those patterns that we drew. So you probably noticed when I drew them, I purposely went a little bit undersize. Just makes it a lot easier in a minute when you push your lure and then try to seal it up. I'm going to swap over to the other end of the feeler gauge, the thick one. You can tell I've obviously used that before. I'm going to start removing all this without wrecking your flat surface. That is all 4 pieces in the mould. There's 2 different ways of Geez, that moves quick on the camera. Two different ways of doing this. You can make little sausages and just stuff them into the gaps. For a big gap I'll do that, for small gaps I'll just do this. Make up a tiny sausage. Stick it in there and rip off the excess. Beautiful. Yeah, you literally just keep going around, repeat this. I'm not going to leave all this in the video. Unless you want to watch 2 hours of me dicking around with a mould. Alright, I'm going to dig these out and get back to you again. So I've literally all just gone around every single thing, just cleaned it up, made sure it was neat. Put my sprues in, then I'll do some keyholes, and then we're ready to pour. This one's probably, I may end up losing the divot, whatever you want to call it. Like, I'm definitely losing it now, but I might be able to sand that back in afterwards. We'll see what happens. Just make sure there's nothing in there. Just do a quick final check. Sprues are in, keys are in, lures in, obviously. So internally, 192 by 70. 19.2 times 7 times 3. Big boy mould if I do that. Need like 80mm wide at the end. No, not needed. 20mm thick. I'll do that. 140mm of each side, each part. I'll be back in a minute. I've got to go and get a mixing jug. Alright. So, silicones by volume. I just went and weighed one of them, and right to the very top line is 145mm. So that's what we're running with. Big glass out of the kitchen because I can't find anything better. And we're going to go for it because it's nearly dark and I've got some stuff to do before it gets dark. So silicone I'm using, Solid Solutions, silicone rubber 1:1, 30A shore hardness. Never used it, hopefully it works alright. Drizzle a bit on the body We'll let it sit, let the bubbles pop. Try and do those sprues as well, so I don't get any bubbles in the sprue, make it hard to pour. And make sure the keys are filled. Alright guys, so first round set up, it's all good. I'm going to rip it apart and start the next batch. Hopefully everything went well. So what I'm trying to do here is not pull the silicone out of the bottom half, but also not pull the master out of the silicone. Sticky gear. Alright, so hopefully all goes well, this will all just peel off nice. So everyone knows that's not how it normally goes. That's normally a nightmare getting that shit off. It's pretty tidy, clean looking, all the keys worked, which is good. I was a bit worried. And we'll just do a quick little clean up, assemble the mold again, pour the second silicone. Come back again tomorrow. It's only a 2-hour silicone, but it's what, currently 6 something at night. Only just got home from work. That's why these videos take so long. It's also why I do a lot of filming at night. So all I'm doing here is just going through making sure these fill ports are smooth. If anyone out there has ever tried to pour a urethane cast using that urethane resin, if you got any rough spots or anything and it starts clogging up in your pour hole, it's a friggin' nightmare. Makes it a lot harder than it should be. Like, don't get me wrong, you can do this without doing this step. Your mold doesn't have to look Instagram perfect to operate. I'm going to snap a quick shot of that for a thumbnail. Then we'll lube up all these nipples. We'll pull the second half. Standard old Vaseline, petroleum jelly. Don't get this on your actual lure, but get it on everything else. Alright, so all I'm doing here, guys, is just going around the corner of the mold box, just in case there is any tiny gaps. I'm fairly confident this wouldn't leak, but can't hurt to be safe, can it? Alright, we're ready. If I forgot to do anything, yell out to me now before it's too late. I forgot to fill that eye up with clay, just noticed. It's too late. Might have to do some surgery on that before we cast some lures. Alright, that's all from me. Alright guys, I'll see you tomorrow when we open that guy up. That degasses nicely. Hey guys, so I got home from work pretty late tonight. I'm just going to rip this mould open and just see how it went. That's all I'm going to do. I'll come back tomorrow and work on the rest of it. I'm just too keen to see how it went. Alright, moment of truth. Did we do well? Oh, that side just fell off. Not even stuck on. That's perfect. Liking that. So that should, in theory, give us a nice smooth edge. Buttery smooth. Look at that. Beautiful. That comes off so good. I'll definitely use that particle board again. It's got to be the easiest mould I've got out of its box. It's starting to get me worried. Everything's going too well. What's the inside going to look like? Alright, the moment of truth. Will it come apart? It's the most nerve-wracking part in any mould process. Oh, look at that. I think we're good. There's always one, isn't there? Tell you what, that is a tidy mould. There's a little bit of that blue shit stuck in there, but that'll come out with the first casting. It's going to be interesting to see what that first casting actually looks like. Nice smooth sprues. Make for some easy pouring, which is perfect. I'm going to have to I'll brush this mould down with a bit of powder when I do the castings. Just so I don't destroy it. Oh, look at that. Remember that eye that I said was a problem? I was supposed to fill it up first. I didn't even notice that when I first pulled this one off. But snapped off perfectly flush. Winning. Alright, so the theory is now, right? That lays across there. I'm going to shape up these little bits of, I think it's a 3mm polycarbonate. Rod goes through them. Cast the mould, pull the pin out, pull the polycarb out. Perfect slot for the screw eyes. Super happy with that mould. Come out perfect. Alright, I've got all those little parts made up. I'm just going to take them out, give the mould a quick dusting. Extend its longevity. Little jar with white powder. It's actually corn flour. The whole purpose of this is so the casting resin doesn't rip the scales out. But then again, in saying that, I've never used corn flour for doing this before. In theory, it should work. So those infill pieces I use for the mould. Luminolite microballoons, 10%. The resin I'm using Solid cast 660. 2 to 2.5 minute work time, 15 to 40 minute demold. I don't know why it's got such a big demold range, but it's probably going to be way too much for this mold because this micro balloons does bulk it out quite a lot. Preferably being a 4 pour, I want to get it in that mold as fast as possible. I'm not sure if it was just me, but every time I pour this stuff, I freaking spill it. Alright, so that was part B. Out of these two, I'm going to see which one's thinner. So part B's thinner. So, because part B is thinner, part A is going to go in with the balloons, get mixed together, make one homogeneous mixture. Alright, who's ready to see this all go to hell? I nearly guarantee I'm going to stuff it up, make a mess. Alright, start the countdown timer. You ready? It's always good with your first mold anyway, just to pour it and just see what happens. You learn from that and you go forwards. Alright guys, got a bit sidetracked, went inside, started helping the wife with something, ended up going for a shower, having dinner, but it's been about an hour and a half. That shit's rock hard, so. Alright. Who's as keen as I am to see this? Is he going to play hard to get or is he going to come out easy? Pretty good. See a couple of little bubbles. Nothing too extreme. A little bit of flashing, but that's to be expected. Before I rip him out, let's have a bit of a close up. There's a little bubble there on one of the scales. Bit of blue stuff in the mould from the putty that I put on the lure. The ends look pretty good. So that's a pretty successful one, eh? Looks good as well. Oh, looks good as well. We'll rip these pins out. We'll see if we can actually get those polycarb bits out or not. Right, that came out easier than I thought it would. Right, let's try the big piece first because it's the one I'm least worried about. Nice clean slots. Took inspiration from that video that Solarfall done, where he done the same method. Bloody good idea, he's a smart man. So for now, for this guy's purpose anyways, I'm going to shove these short screw eyes in there. They are too small for this lure, but the other ones I ordered aren't here yet. And cut these a little bit long, just so I can pull them back out. Alright. Some random eye. Coming out pretty nice. A couple of other eyes I've made. Just prototyping, seeing what works. Nice big eye. Or a really small pupil eye. Don't know which one I like the best. This is the rubber I was thinking about. 2.5mm thick. It's fairly rigid. Let's cut an example piece now and see how it looks up against it. That's going to look pretty cool once it's painted. Alright guys, I might actually wrap this one up here and I'll come back for a part 3. We'll go through all the weighting and the swim testing and we'll slap some paint on one. This one is going to get brutalised in the swim test though. It's probably going to end up with a whole heap of different screw eye locations and toe locations. It's going to have drilled in lead weights, where the other ones will be casted in. So, alright, see you in part 3. Catches.